All right, thank you guys for joining in. Welcome to Mastermind. We have a new member. So current member is me, Javed, Dr. Javed, and then we have Raja, Mudassir, and Hasib, and our new member is Sabina. Okay. So Sabina is gonna be a good asset to us, bring her a lot of knowledge, and it just happened to be that Hasib is presenting today on a topic that Sabina specializes. So I'm looking forward for a great discussion here. So with no further ado, we're gonna start. So Hasib, I'm gonna put your PowerPoint. Just let me know every time you want me to
All right.
change the slide, okay? So I'm about to share the screen in a moment.
Okay.
Okay, so we are ready. So stop share screen. Got it. All right. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right. Take over, Hasib.
All right. So the topic we are discussing today is sleep and work correlation. The study of how sleep deprivation affects work, behavior, and leadership. You can flip.
Okay.
The problem. Behavior. Study shows sleep deprived people tend to do more unethical behaviors than people who aren't. People also have less focus and attention span while sleep deprived. So in the video, he said that unethical behaviors are more common in sleep deprived people in a study he did in Germany. The second problem is leadership. Abusive supervision. When a leader or boss has mood swings, this can be due to sleep deprivation and the self control of the leader. It's not stable. Charisma in both follower and leader is lessened when sleep deprived. So leadership is jeopardized when the leader is sleep deprived. And also the third problem, which is a major problem, which is sleep deprived people are a danger to society. Alcohol consumption and sleep deprivation have similar results. Studies show 4 nights of sleep deprivation can leave someone equally distorted as someone with a blood alcohol content of zero.6 BAC. So someone who hasn't slept well in 4 nights and he drives or he does some other task, they are equivalent to someone with a blood alcohol content of zero.6, which is a very big danger to society. Next slide. Work environment and leadership roles. A worker that is sleep deprived is hard to inspire. Workers who come to work sleep deprived are grumpy and have less creativity and drive in the work environment. A leader who is sleep deprived will lash out more on workers. A leader that is sleep deprived not only harms themselves, but followers are negatively impacted. Because a sleep deprived leader will make irrational decisions and have lessened judgment. So a leader not only harms themselves negatively, but also the followers. Because if the leader does something wrong, a follower will also do something wrong. So if a leader is sleep deprived, he not only affects himself, but he also affects the others around him and the people he's leading. Next slide. The solution. Phone usage affects sleep a lot. Phones should be kept away and off before bed. Caffeine and food affect sleep as well. Try to eat 2 to 3 hours before bed and don't bring food into bed. Try not to drink coffee in the evening as well. Maximize the link between your bed and the amount of sleep you get. Distractions are the link to sleep deprivation. Less sleep stress free and distraction free and sleep longer. Teens tend to sleep late and wake up late, and this is actually due to a circadian imbalance. The average adult, however, should follow their natural circadian sleep schedule, which consists of 7 to 9 hours a night of sleep. So the circadian sleep schedule, it basically means that an adult, a fully mature adult, should be getting 7 to 9 hours a night of sleep. However, in teenagers, studies have found that the circadian sleep it's at an imbalance at that time of life. So teenagers tend to sleep later and wake up later. And on the video, the guy was talking about how the school system like completely throws this off because high schools and middle schools are starting students off really early in the morning, which throws off the circadian sleep schedule. And he was debating on whether to fix that or not.
Yeah, there's actually been a lot of research being done in it, because what teenagers actually do, if you don't mind me cutting you off, Haseeb, is that they have scheduled their cycle, circadian rhythm, to kind of fall into a late cycle purposely, just because of the way they interact, the caffeine they intake, the television, electronics that they use. They've kind of delayed their circadian rhythm, so it's more of a late cycle rather than an early. So now what they were suggesting, instead of having early school times, they wanted to have late school times. And a lot of places have started doing that, where they, how right now currently, I think high school classes start at 7 and 7:30. They actually moved it and compared start times of like 10 o'clock. So you start at 10 o'clock, but you go to 6, 7, and those kids were doing better. So a lot of organizations are actually pushing for that schedule. The only problem now with this is that when you take into parental jobs, it doesn't really correlate well with moving kids to start at a later time, because most parents have to be at work early. Now they were just kind of looking at, even for adults, a lot of like young adults still have that same teenager cycle. So they were suggesting that like a lot of studies in Europe have looked at adults starting at later times are more functional, they do better, and they have a better work outcomes, because they're not they're actually going along with their circadian rhythm, not being forced to be out of it, starting at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, right? So go on. That was just my little tidbit.
Yes, so like Sabinanti said, that the circadian rhythm, it's being jeopardized in a lot of places. And this affects not only in the teenage years, but it becomes a habit as you age on. So it imbalances in the teenage years, and then the imbalance stays as you grow. So you can move on to the next slide.
Okay.
Sleep is very important, not just for health reasons, but for our day-to-day tasks, such as driving, which I mentioned. The amount of sleep people should be getting is a priority. Sleep management is a skill needed to succeed in life, because if not managed right, it is as worse as alcohol in some situations. People can be sleep deprived without knowing it, and instead of blaming others or ourselves for emotional or mental stress, we should first see our sleep schedules. The bottom line is we should let go of distractions, whether that be a person, device, or food, that prevents us from receiving the correct amount of sleep. So this was the conclusion of the video. For a successful life and a successful schedule, you need to get your correct amount of sleep, because sleep affects us in every aspect of our life, and without it, we're not going to be able to achieve our full potential.
Very good. All right. So this is a very interesting topic you presented, and nicely summarized the whole video. So that's good. A couple of things for the viewers, right? And for others' knowledge too. Maybe Sabina, you could chime in. What is circadian rhythm?
Want me to say it, or does somebody else want to say it? I think Haseeb mentioned it. He defined it.
You can go deeper inside it, because I just know the definition.
That's pretty much it. It's basically how your body's natural rhythm works, right? And other factors that affect it, right? It can be affected by time, it can be affected by environment, it can be affected by weather. All those things kind of play a role in it. But it's the way your body is naturally designed to function, or to rhythmically, this is the time you should be going to sleep, this is the time you should be waking up. That's pretty much in layman's terms what it is.
So it's associated with certain hormones that release
Yes. at
Uh,
certain times of the day and stuff and night.
so I think, for example, cortisol is what gets released in the morning, like 4 o'clock, and prepares your body for the whole hefty day. If you go back in days when, caveman time, if you noticed, people woke up at sunrise because that's when the hormones were released. And as the day went on, those hormones started to fade, and the body didn't produce them again. Correct?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean,
Then
that's when they got the most of their energy. That's why they had their start of the days early. That's why a lot of people also believe in that at 5 a.m., start your day. You're more functional that way because after the release of it, that is when your brain is at its maximum capacity, wakefulness capacity. In a sense.
is that why?
Another one is also melatonin.
Yep, melatonin. That's to help you sleep and to regulate it.
So what's the role of melatonin here?
This guy didn't really actually talk about melatonin.
Correct. So melatonin basically, and correct me, Savina, is a hormone that usually body's producing all the time, but it breaks down with light.
Yes.
But if
So.
that hormone is in the body, it makes you sleepy.
Mm-hmm.
So if it gets hit by the light, let's say a room light, sunlight, it breaks down, correct?
Pretty much.
And this is the reason why in factories at night they use such a bright light to keep the workers alert.
Yes, that's why at nighttime, especially if you're a nighttime worker, and that's why they tell you after you've worked the night shift to avoid light because
Okay.
you don't. What you want is you want to increase the melatonin in your body to help you sleep because now you're trying to sleep during the day because you have to get up and work at night, right? So that's why a lot of times they'll tell people who've done a night shift wear shades when you're driving back home, kind of avoid all kind of light in the car, have tinted windows. Even when you get into the house, don't open up the shades, have the shades drawn, keep it dark, just try to keep a lamp on rather than putting all the fluorescent lights on because you're basically getting rid of the melatonin with the light exposure, right? And you want to keep it because you're working on a reverse, like from an example, when he comes back from work, for him, when he walks out of the hospital, he should put on sunglasses because he shouldn't be exposing himself to sunlight, right? Gets home, the shade should be drawn, everything should be dark, so that when he comes home, he just uses whatever, does his thing, and gets ready to go to sleep, right? And that's when if he gets that rhythm right, then by the evening he can get up because he's had a good quality of sleep during the day. Like he'll be going through all his sleep cycle stages, and he'll wake up refreshed in the evening. And then when he goes to work, now you want him exposed to light and bright light because that will help to decrease the melatonin in the body, and that'll keep him awake while he's at work at night.
So now that brings us to another thing is what are some of the signs of sleep deprived? Because you know how in residency we were working 24, 36, 48 hours and walking around sleep deprived. And oftentimes we missed signs, and we know some of the colleagues here and there would crash in a car accident. This resident died, that doctor died because they didn't get enough sleep. So for the audience, what kind of signs that they can pick up and say, okay, now I'm tired, I should rest?
I mean, there's physical body signs like somebody yawning or people who are just kind of functioning on drinking lots of caffeine. So what happens is as the caffeine finishes in your system, you start getting tired. Grumpiness is a big sign, right? People who kind of also hunger sometimes is a compensation for it because you're looking for energy, right? To keep you awake. But an attitude change is a big sign because you'll if you keep somebody who's a nice, happy, jovial person and you deprive them of sleep after 48 hours, 72 hours, they slowly start getting grumpy to the point where you can tell that, hey, what's going on with this person, right? And that's when they were saying about leaders, right? Well, a leader could be great, but if they're sleep deprived, they're angry, right? And a lot of times you'll see similar things happening to people when they're hungry, right? If you starve somebody, they'll be good for a while, but it's the same thing that your body craves that energy, and it's not getting what it needs to function, and you respond, your attitude responds in such a way that you become cranky or aggressive, or most of the time it's grumpy is what people say, right? The other thing is tired fatigue. You see they're making simple mistakes, like they can't read properly, they're reading sentences and they're making mistakes, or if they're in their writing. A big thing of tiredness is that they'll be talking to you and then just kind of dozing off in between, or or being dazed, and you'll be like, I was just talking to you, you're not responding to me. Those are extreme cases.
I do have a question. Sure, go ahead.
So now I think there's a debate. So some people are saying get up early, and some people are saying get up late, and it's better. So let me ask you this: how should I raise Manan to get up early from day one, or should I tell him he can?
So
wait?
first thing first, you need to make sure he's getting the required number of hours of sleep that he needs, right? That's the majority, right? But for him, it's a slightly different story because kids are growing, right? When you hit above your 20s, 26 and stuff, your body's not growing. Like it doesn't need that. What happens is we release growth hormone, right? It's a hormone that helps your bones grow, your brain develop, everything, all the other hormones function properly, right? So for him, your major priority should be, is he getting enough sleep? That's why in younger grades, they have nap time, right? Because they know children use more energy. And so to compensate for it, you need to give them those naps to help them sleep. Now for him, it is a debate. School times haven't changed, right? The next 10 years, will they change? I can't say, right? Personally, I've always functioned when I was younger as a morning person, right? So I can give you that aspect. Like, I think that it's better to get up in the morning. Now, if you look at all these successful people, they all say they wake up early, right? New studies are just showing now that, we think late times are better, this and that. There is a change. The reason is electronics is a bigger thing now. Back in the day, people used to read books to fall asleep, right? Like before bed. Now everybody is on an electronic. You're on your phone, you're on your TV, you're on something electronic. So that's they're not realizing that those factors are playing a role. Now it's up to you. If you can make sure he doesn't watch any TV or have any electronic exposure, light exposure, 2 hours before he needs to go to bedtime, and you have a strict bedtime, 9:30 he should be going to sleep, getting up at 6, 7 o'clock, then it works. But then you have to keep that environment.
What are you talking, 10 hours? No, Manan's age, they probably need about 12 hours of sleep. Am I right, Sabina?
How old is he? 1, right? Roughly.
2 years.
I can look it up, actually. I don't even remember off the top of my... I know for, like, Asib had the adults and us, it's like 7.5 to 8,
7
9.
to 9.
Yeah. So I think they came out with new guidelines for it. I actually, because I get messaged for it. Let me just check. I will tell you in a minute.
At the same time, Mudassir, and so what I take, my take on this is make sure that you stick to one schedule. Now, of course, things are not going to change in the next 10 years, even the next 50 years, right? And the hormone system works the way...
Back in the day, like we were saying, you wake up early.
And the future is also the work, how everybody works is a morning schedule. So you got to train him, and then you have to look at your career too, right? That's a morning time. So you got to work along that size. Now, the small research that are coming out, or people say, you know what? Yeah, you don't have to be a morning person. I work fine. Yeah, there are small population of people that function well, getting up late. Their business is probably works late, and they're doing business in a different part of the world, so they don't need to be up at that time. So you have to take that in a bigger picture, right?
Yeah, there's too many factors that play a role. But like Mansoor is saying, look at the environment you have. Like, unless you're going to be a late person, then keeping him on a late schedule, like everybody in the house is a late schedule, is a different story, right? But realistically, the outside world isn't running in that late schedule, right? So in that sense, for his actual age, it should be almost 13 hours he should be getting. 12 to 14.
Because of less time, because of time interest, I want to talk to you one more thing for the audience and rest of the team is, what is sleep hygiene? Because that's underlooked. I get people taking 3, 4, 5 medications for sleep who when they sleep, they don't wake up because you could call them, you could read a drum beat next to them, they won't wake up. And there's no importance of why to wake up. So let's talk about sleep hygiene for maybe 2 minutes.
Okay, so pretty much it's sleep hygiene is how to improve your sleep, right? So that's basically the whole purpose behind it. Biggest factor that you have to have for it is have a sleep schedule, right? Even on weekends, people who keep that sleep schedule during the week have to keep it on the weekends as well. Because remember, the weekends, everybody thinks, it's my time off. But in reality, you have to go back. Your body can't adjust that quick, 2 days is not good enough for it to say, hey, let me flip back and forth, right? So whatever weekday schedule you have, you must keep the same schedule for the weekend. That's a must. Next thing is you have to have a relaxing bedtime routine, right? It has to be that way. The whole point, like I was saying, avoiding electronics, turning off electronics about 2 hours before bed, is what you should be doing. A lot of people read, a lot of, now everybody tries to read on their Kindles and stuff, but you're still getting light exposure, all the dim light, night mode, this and that. It's still electronic exposure. You have to avoid it. The other thing they tell you is actually before bed, if you should exercise, right? Now you could do some light exercise, as in just kind of walking, or a lot of people recommend like just doing some yoga for 15, 20 minutes, because all you're doing is you're relaxing your muscles, telling your body, hey, this is the time for my body to relax, right? The other thing is temperature of your house should be a good climate. It shouldn't be too hot. It shouldn't be too cold, right? Because temperature changes will wake you up. Same thing, exposure to sound and light. Some people like to complete darkness. Some of you have kids, so you have to have a night light. So things like that, you have to realize that you don't want light in your room, but maybe outside in the hallway you can have a little light, just so it's giving just a little gleam, because you don't want that light exposure because it affects you, right? The other thing is like sleeping on a comfortable mattress, comfortable pillows, all those things are important. Avoiding caffeine, obviously none of us drink alcohol, but that's another factor before bed, or tea, right? Sweets, all those things should be avoided because they all have sugar and energy which actually wake your body up, right? So these are just kind of basic things that we always tell everybody when we're talking about sleep hygiene, right? Now, obviously, if you have partners that sleep on different schedules, that becomes a problem, right? Because you really need to be going to bed at the same time, because if they're coming to bed, they wake you up, it doesn't matter what you do, everything gets wasted, right? So in that time, you have to, you guys have to kind of come up with a cohesive response at home that we have to have the same schedule, and it has to be everybody's schedule, which is hard, which, if some people work late, come back late. So then you have to understand maybe sleeping in separate rooms is a need, right? But that pretty much defines all of sleep hygiene,
So we got 4 minutes left. I want to hit one more topic. So one thing on this thing I tell my patients is make sure your room is dedicated, right? So, that room is only to sleep and no TV in
Oh
that.
yeah, that's why I said no electronic. That room should be just a place to go to bed. It really should just have your bed, no other real major distractions, right? No, you want to keep it as a simple and a relaxing place. It doesn't. You could have candles, or sometimes people like to listen to music to help them fall asleep, which is fine. Oh, that's fine. It's part of your routine, right? But it's just like very mellow, very quiet. It shouldn't be like disturbing music. And obviously you shouldn't be watching it on a screen, just playing it with the lights off is what's recommended. But yeah, the bedroom should only be used for the bedroom. You shouldn't be studying in there. You shouldn't be, doing homework, doing paperwork. It should be a dedicated place just to sleep.
And what happened with this? Go ahead.
What I usually do is I listen to you on YouTube. I put on music on YouTube and I fall asleep. Without that, I really can't fall asleep. But I'm not looking at the screen. Is that still bad? Or?
It's still bad, because what you're doing is you are creating a habit, but if that electronic is next to you, you'll be tempted to look at something. You'll be tempted to do something, either watch one YouTube video useless to the another YouTube video useless, or you're going to see something that is going to take your attraction away. So technically, you shouldn't do it. It's away. And a couple other things you could do is, sometimes mind is distracting. Write those things down for tomorrow's plan, today's plan, so it's done. It's out of your mind. And make that habit. Now we have 2 minutes left. So quickly, one more thing. So let's say someone who sleeps more. That's another issue, that we have is what's the body when someone sleeps.
So the problem is when you sleep more, you're throwing off your circadian cycle, right? So that's becoming a problem. You're delaying it. And remember, more sleep isn't always beneficial, right? Like you said, what you're doing is you're putting your body in a sense that it's not getting up, it's not getting motivated, the muscles aren't moving. So you're not moving around the hormones that need to move in your body. You're kind of making yourself lazy in a sense, right? And then what happens is that these people that sleep, let's say if you sleep in during the day, you end up suffering from insomnia. I can't sleep at night. I can't sleep at night. Give me medication, right? And that's what you kind of want to avoid. You want to put them back on that same cycle. And that's where that sleep hygiene plays a big role, right? I mean, obviously in all these things you have to rule out, do they have any other kind of sleep issue? Like Are they like sleepwalking at night, or do they have sleep apnea where they stop breathing and that's why they're waking up, and that's why they're sleeping out during the day? Those things you have to rule out as always a cause. But most of the time, if you sleep the proper number of hours and the proper timing, you function amazingly. And obviously it takes a while. Remember, you can't just say I'm going to do this now and in a week it's going to be done. It can take up to a few months to get a good sleep cycle, sleep hygiene, and sleep routine that makes you fully functional. But you start seeing the benefits within a few weeks, right? You'll see a big improvement in how you function after 2-3 weeks if you stay consistent.
Okay. So in other words, that you're having a lot of trouble with sleeping, talk to your doctor once, and then you should follow the sleep hygiene.
Yeah, do not try to take sleeping pills. That's the worst thing to do, because once you get hooked on them, they actually have a lot more side effects than benefits, right?
So I just want to say thank you to all.
I hope you find this video helpful. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.